All righty.
Hi, everybody. My name is Barbara Mayerson from Joy and Success, and I am here with Michael Gross. He's a wonderful speaker, and he just wrote a book, which I'll talk about, and big law of attraction speaker. And take it away, Michael.
Take it away. There you go. Keep it easy. You mentioned law of attraction. I'm actually I took a course in law of attraction at one time to make sure I was following my path, right? And that was a wonderful way to stay involved with it and really focus on that. And it took me to many places where I started doing what I discovered my Wingman's Path to Positivity, and that's the book that I have just written and literally just came out last week. And you talk about a funny time, of course, Barb, with what's going on in the world right now with the coronavirus. We had a book launch, and it just added to the craziness of it, where my wife and I did a book launch just from our house and had it on a Facebook Live or whatever. And it's just been so fun. It's such an interesting time. But I find this time is no different than, obviously there's a global fear now, but when you're in fear yourself, or something else is going on, I think it's sort of similar. And the practices that I utilize help me stay positive, because if there's one thing I've learned on this path, at least what I've learned is what, I'm not telling you anything new. What I focus on expands, right? I mean
Right.
this is what the gurus of the world have been saying. And I think what I did, and I mentioned it earlier, is that you and I, I just sort of started following what they said. I said, well, if they're telling me that I can create my own life, or a life of my choosing, and I should listen to them. They're the masters of the universe, right? What I call the masters. And so that's all I really started doing. I started practicing positivity, and the book came out of it because of how each practice came up. um, and so I can share a couple stories as we go on, but that's how I came about it. If you'd like, I'll share one of the original stories. um,
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think like you and so many of the other spiritual teachers out there, or well, attraction teachers, or whatever you want to call them, teachers, that they have found how to find their own path to be able to get to the place, because we all started out happy and positive and joyful when we're babies, but somewhere along the line that changed, and then to come back to that and to come back to who we really are, and to be able to at least see the light at times, maybe not all the time, but I think a lot of people are just too mired into the darkness 99% of the time, and we're finding our light at least, I would say, half the time, or at least 40% of the time, and which is where you came from, because you had to come out of it too.
well, you know what, yeah, I think, one of the things I say, you don't get to be the wingman on the wingman's path to positivity without going through your share of trials and tribulations and challenges, and because you have to get some compassion for what other people are going through, and you also have to figure out that you're going the wrong way. You're falling down the rabbit hole. You don't want to be there. You got to get out of there. And as a matter of fact, I think it was Portia Nelson who wrote a really great poem about falling in. She used the metaphor of a pothole, I think, in the street. I fall in the street. And it was just such a wonderful metaphor. Like, the first time you fall in, you don't even know how you ended up there. But sooner or later, the third or fourth time you're falling in, you're like, oh, I could have avoided this, but I kept coming. I kept falling in, right? So I think somehow what I have learned for me, Barb, is it is a truly momentum game. Um, and all I really have to do is to get my vibration or my energy moving in a slightly more positive direction. Um, and I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, but I am saying it's pretty simple to do. It's, I can just practice. And what I found for me is I was able to practice. What I did to make sure it was simple enough for me was I would practice for only 1 minute a day. And I
Mm.
said, if I practice for 1 minute a day, then I will be, then I'm successful. Then I'm successful. And all of a sudden, now you're sending out a different vibration. It's all about the vibe. I'll give you a very funny example. I came upon the self congratulations vibration, right? So I would start congratulating myself on anything and everything. Oh, I brushed my teeth, congratulations. Oh, I did this, congratulations. And just recently, of course, I mentioned the book, and that's a huge congratulations, right? That's something that's so cool and so so remarkable in my life that I was able to do that, just from my past. But it started with just the small vibration of brushing my teeth. I'll always remember, and I talk about it in the book, where one time my wife and I were going out, and it must have been in my self-congratulation stage of practicing, where we were going out, we were going to a party or dinner or whatever. And as we got in the car, I noticed that we were on time, and I was like, congratulations, hon, we are on time. And and as most women know who are a little more evolved than men, I think she just gave me an eye roll. You know, she gave me a little eye roll, like, really, we're gonna congratulate ourselves for being on time. And I said, and that's when it really drove it home for me, because I said, you know what, I'm finding the more I can find to congratulate myself on, the more the universe will send me to congratulations for other things, reasons to feel congratulations.
And I think that's great because, like, if you're like me and most of the other people in the world, you'd be beating yourself up if you were 5 minutes late. So
So true.
you're acknowledging that you did. I mean, yeah, getting there on time would be it's fine, it's great, and wonderful, congratulations. But then you'd be really beating yourself up if you were late. And I think that that's an amazing thing that you've been able to take that little moment and say, "Great job! Great job! I'm on time."
I think it's the little moments, and it's funny you say that, because I think when I was a younger man trying to set the world on fire and, whatever, I always was looking for the big thing. And I've come to realize it's just these simple 1 minute, for me, 1 minute practices, these baby steps, just to make sure that my vibration is constantly moving in a positive direction. And by the way, that doesn't mean when things are, when things are going lousy, as Abraham Hicks says, you're not putting a happy face sticker on your gas tank, so you can't see how much gas you have. You got to pay attention, or like Louise Hay says, or said, if you're cleaning the kitchen, you got to see the dirt, right? You got to see the dirt. But like in today's society, maybe that would be, you don't focus on the news. You don't watch the news 12 hours a day. You maybe get your news because you know what's going on and you know how troubling that can be, and you don't allow it to take you down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and when you were talking about a minute, I'm just saying to Abraham Hicks, like for them, it's 17 seconds. If you can turn your vibration around for 17 seconds, then maybe you have a shot at going a little bit more, and then a little bit more.
Right, and they talk about it in terms of 17 seconds and then 34 seconds, and somehow it gets to 68 seconds. And that 68 seconds is really the time you want to get to, 4 times the 17 seconds. And when I first started doing my practices, my cell phone didn't have a second thing; it just had minutes. So I was like, a minute will be okay too. I don't have to do a minute in 8 seconds.
Right.
But I'll tell you a funny story how the minute started. And it was during I love watching football. I love watching football. I'm in fantasy football. I just love all national football. But the Eagles, I'm from Philadelphia, so they're my team. I just love them. And I was watching the Super Bowl a few years back. And as I was watching it, I recognized that when I watch a Super Bowl, I don't go to a party. I'm like a guy who just likes to watch the game and not have a lot of chatter. But I really, especially like the commercials that come out during the Super Bowl. All the companies bring out their best new commercials. And as I was watching the game, and it was a great game, I was more enamored because I really had an epiphany that, wow, every one of these commercials is being brought to us by the most successful companies of our time, all spending millions and millions and millions of dollars just to maybe get into our conscious mind for 1 minute, and maybe, and therefore, hopefully in our subconscious mind forever. So when we go buy a drink or a computer or a dinner or whatever, a car, whatever it is, that sticks in our mind. And I thought, you know what? If the most successful companies in the world are doing this, maybe I can try and get into my subconscious with a little bit of positivity. And I started practicing by saying, I can practice positivity for 1 minute. I can practice positivity for 1 minute. And it just sort of,
That's right. Now, is that how you started your book? How did you start the book, or where did the idea come from to do the Wingman?
The whole the way the Wingman's path really started is, so I started doing, I started a meetup, a law of attraction meetup. Um, and somehow, some way, through synchronistic events, I actually was making a phone call to a friend in the corporate world, and I ended up calling the person's name below their name. You know how sometimes you hit the name, but somehow I hit the, and I called Rita, and Rita Stroud, I worked with in the corporate world. But when we were both let go, she started doing a Talking Angels radio show, and she started chatting, found her spiritual side. And so one day when I called her, that the day of that fortuitous phone call, I called her and she said, "Why don't you come on and talk about your law of attraction meetup?" And I said, "Okay." So, and we had such a good time and we had such great chemistry that I ended up doing that, co-hosting the show with her for like 7 years. And it was immediately upon that, because I had a hard time saying the word angels and believing in angels. I'm like, come on, Rita, I understand. Like, and I would always talk about doing the science end of it, that an object in motion stays in motion. So if I can get my vibration moving in a positive direction, or my thoughts moving in a positive direction, it would be easier, of course, to keep them moving that way. And that's based on science. But so as we were talking angels, I said, one time a business client of mine, I was still in the health insurance business, and a client called me and said, "Wait, you believe in angels?" And it sounded sort of like he was questioning whether his company was going to keep working with me, right? And I said, "I believe in wingmen, David. I believe in wingmen, and angels are great wingmen." And it just sort of stuck, and I sort of started calling it wingmen from that point on, and wingmates. Now I've changed it to wingmates a little bit because I don't want any gender problems here, and it doesn't matter. Everyone could use actually I say wingmate, but when I use the term wingman, I believe it's more of a gender indifference type of thing. It's, what I'm
Well, it's
saying.
really about you and like you being your own wingman. So
It was really about me being my own wingman. It was really about me being my own wingman. And actually, my favorite definition of wingman, speaking of that, was very crazy, especially with angels. It came from Dr. Bernie Siegel. I don't know if you know Dr. Bernie Siegel.
yeah.
Somehow we interviewed him. I realized he ended up living at the time where he lives. My sister was living in the same town up in Connecticut. And so every time I went to visit, I would, I would get together with Bernie, and we'd walk dogs and do whatever. And he'd tell me his stories. And he's, of course, he was like a friend and mentor, of course. I mean, he was a tremendous teacher. And one time when we were walking, he said, "Mike, do you know what a wingman? You know what a wingman is?" And I was like so ready for it, because I'm like, "Bernie, I know every definition of a wingman, man. It's all over my website." And he didn't even hear me. It was like a rhetorical question. He said, "A wingman is an angel in heaven with only one wing that grasps onto another so they can both fly."
Mm.
And I was like, wow, I didn't see that one coming. And from that moment on, though, I recognized that that we all at one time or another only have one wing, but we're able to, through practicing, I was able to get that second wing.
Wow.
I became my own wingman, as you said.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I mean, it's like having your own back and having somebody there for you always, and even especially at this time of life when you don't necessarily have anyone there, and to have to be able to rely on yourself. I know it's very challenging for me because I don't have anyone living here with me, and just reaching out to people or not, and just finding my own fun and joy and happiness here in my own home. So I think learning to take care of yourself, which is really what seems like the wingman is, and congratulate yourself instead of beating yourself up for anything.
I think so many of us, whether we're home alone or whether we're with 3 young kids and we're driving pulling our hair out or something like that, everyone has their situation. But what I have found is it's just so easy to focus on what's going wrong.
Yeah.
And of course, we know the more we do, the more we see what the one thing I have found in my life since I discovered this path for myself and is the more whatever I'm sending out, I'm getting back. Whatever I'm sending out, I'm getting back. And when I recognized that, there were many different times that it took work to do. I'll give you a great example of one time when I was driving with a friend, and I was feeling great. The Wingman's path was coming to, and everything was going great. But I was still new to the path, and not, you could get knocked off it I can get knocked off it now. Right. You know what I mean? And as we were driving, he said to me, "You're not going to believe it." And a good friend of mine, right? And he goes, "You're not going to believe it." I'm saying, "What?" He goes, "I just got a check for $1 million."
Wow.
And I'm like, "You just got a check for $1 million?" And all I felt was covetous. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, "Oh my God." And of course the Bible will tell you, do not covet your neighbor's goods. And what I realized, though, that's when I recognized that I really had traveled a little distance on my journey. Because at that moment, immediately I said, "Man, if I keep sending out this vibration, the universe is just going to send me more to be covetous about." Right. So I started finding the joy in it, and celebrating his joy at having it. And so I sort of just came up with the celebration, a two-part celebration. One, I'm celebrating his joy, and therefore I'm sending out pure joy. And of course, then the universe will send me back joy. And the second thing I came up with was, if he got $1 million, and I'm a pretty good friend of his, and I'm with him on the day he got it, well, by law of attraction, it must be coming to me soon too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm finding too. I did an interview with somebody who was a money person.
Okay.
She was talking about, I forget exactly what she says now, but it's like, if you're this close to be able to see it in somebody else, it's right there for you too. And all you have to do is just open that up and be happy for that other person, and just say, "I'm ready," and just be excited for them, and knowing it's that close to you. So that's exactly what you did with your friend with $1 million.
Right. And now I do it with anything, great relationship with their kids, great, whatever it is that I desire. I'm like, I find the joy in it. It's funny, you speak about different people and different practices. I saw your interview the other day with Pam Grout. And Pam Grout wrote a book. Of course, we all know she wrote E Squared and many others actually. But E Squared, one of the chapters in my book is about a practice from her book. And so I think what you want to do is just find different practices that you can recognize. And for me, that practice was called I called it lime green cars, because my wife and I were driving up to Providence, Rhode Island. And I said, "Hey, you want to do one of these practices? It comes from this book, Pam Grout. She's comes with a science background." And so we started looking for lime green cars. And and I said when we were doing it, I had said, how many do you think we'd have to see to believe that what we look for, we find, right? And we didn't really come up with a number. It was sort of whatever. But by the end of the week, there were times we were on the highway surrounded by lime green cars. By the end of the week, my wife said to me, "We have to change the color of the car. There's too many lime green cars."
Wow.
And what happened from that, though, is I said, "All right, I am now going to focus on seeing money." And it was amazing what happened from that point on with money. And it was Pam Grout's thing. Like I said, if I can see lime green cars, then I can find money, right? Or I can find love, or I can find a new job, or I can find a better apartment or a better house. You know what I'm saying? And I think we just have to take these practices and make them ours, fit them into our life.
I think that's great. It's like, I'm gonna, they're talking to Pam, as you heard my interview with her, like, just I had gotten Think and Grow Rich, and I didn't read the other ones. Although I was in the library one day waiting for people, so or in a bookstore, and I just was reading it, but I didn't actually get it.
Right.
But I forgot what she had said at the beginning about doing the AA 2.0 and being grateful for everything, and then now you're reminding me of what she said about just looking for anything. That's yeah, and just seeing if you see it. I think she talks about butterflies in one of them.
Right.
Just to be able to, I'm going to start saying I'm looking for money everywhere I go, wherever it is, however I see it.
I can tell you it worked tremendously. As a matter of fact, as I was writing that chapter, and I was writing about this money that had come into me, and I was like, I don't know what happened. I stopped looking for money. I don't know why, but as I'm writing this, I'm going to start looking for it again. And I talked about, I was looking for inner peace, and at that point, after I realized that what I look for, I find. And I think some of us, we have to be reminded of that time and again.
I think a lot of us don't, unfortunately, a lot of people don't even understand that. But a lot of us in the spiritual world, and I think the people that, it's my website and your website, and do know some of that, it's just really practicing it. Which brings me to my other question is, what tools do you use besides the Pam Grout one? What other tools can you give us that you use?
Well, it's really funny. I come up with a new practice almost every day. It's very weird. By whatever I'm doing, like today, the practice I did this morning. So I do a video for my group, my Wingman's Path Facebook group. I do one almost every morning. And today I said, I love that we can connect. Like, so we're in this time period where you got to stay in and you can't go see people. It's amazing that we're able to connect. And so I said, as a matter of fact, I mentioned I was having a free Zoom video conference just so I could connect tomorrow, Saturday at noon. If you see this and you want to join us, you can find it on the Wingman's Path on Facebook, the event. But it's just the fact that we can connect. Like, and I thought, wow, I love that we can connect. And isn't that a much better vibration to be sending out for yourself than one saying, I can't believe I'm stuck in the house. I can't believe I can't get out. I can't believe I can't go see my granddaughter. I can only speak with her on FaceTime right now. I think it comes back to what you just said before is finding something to be grateful for, because I think what you focus on expands. I'm such a big believer in that when I start focusing on good stuff, the good stuff comes back. It's no different. What I have found, Barbara, is it's no different than nature. And that sort of is my guiding light. Nature is what I use as my guide. And nature tells me if I plant, I don't know, seeds of corn, I'll get 10 times the corn. And if I plant seeds of asparagus, I'll get 10 times the asparagus. And if I plant seeds of positive energy, I'll get 10 times the positive energy. And I found that to be true. And so that's how, so the tools I come up with is literally anything that makes me feel better. So of course, gratitude is one. Throughout the book, there were just different ones that came up depending on where I was in the time. Like I'll give you one of you had mentioned one of the first ones was happened on Thanksgiving Day, 2011, actually, is where the book sort of begins. It begins a little bit before that, but that's where the epiphany happened, where my car had broken down when I take a morning walk every day. So and at that time I had my dog, and so we would go for a walk every morning, and I would drive to a park. Well, when I came out of the park that morning, my car was broken down, and I sort of knew something was wrong with it. And I knew it was going to cost more than I had at the time in my bank account to fix. And I was sort of trying to put it off, and a mechanic had told me I could put it off for about a couple of weeks, and it didn't start, right? And I was just, so you mentioned earlier about, beating ourselves up a little bit. I was beating myself up because I had the car about 3.5 years. So it was out of warranty. And I knew the car was not a good car, because even though they were paying for it and it was under warranty, I was taking it there a lot, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm just so irritated. And somehow I said, what would my wingman say? And it's now become my mantra, because I got an answer. And it was the first time I really did. And it said, practice what you preach, find the positive. And so I said, practice what I preach, find the positive. There is no positive here. But I started going through it, so I started saying, well, I'm safe, right? The car broke. It was Thanksgiving morning. Thank God it's broken down in a parking lot in my hometown that I don't have to worry. I can call the police, tell them it's there, and not worry about that. And then I said, and I'm with a friend here. He can drive me and my dog home. And if this broke down on, if I was on the road, how am I going to get a tow truck on Thanksgiving Day, right? So I started coming up with 2 or 3 or 4, and I started coming up with I don't know, I must have come up with 8 or 10 positives. And I was like, this is amazing. And I had come up with a plan actually that I was, right that moment, it just kept continuing where I was coming up with these positives to this. And I said, I'm going to come up, I have a plan that I am going to take the car back to the car dealer instead of the mechanic, because they know how much trouble it is. And they're going to help me financially fix this car. And also, I'm going to ask them to buy the car back from me for whatever fair wholesale value is at this point for this, this car. And my daughter had just moved into Philadelphia and worked in Philadelphia, so didn't want her car anymore and was still leasing it. So I figured that, wow, she would want me to take over her payments, saving her money, and she can still use the car. We'd share the car, whatever. So that plan got into place, and that day I went home. Obviously, I had 22 people at Thanksgiving dinner, and I decided to I put the plan in place. So the next day, I met the tow truck. They took it to the dealership. I couldn't wait for the weekend, and I knew, you talk about law of attraction, Bob, I knew I was coming from a positive place. I was feeling so happy about, wow, I really turned this around. This is awesome. So Monday, the car place calls me, the service guy, and I know him, of course, because I've been there so many times. And he said, Mike, I have to tell you, I'm sorry. We're not going to help you fix the car this time because it's out of warranty. We can't help you. And we don't want to buy the car back because we know it's a problem car and we can't offer you the money for it. And I was like, I was in the middle of I was still working at the time. So I was in the middle of a deadline. And I think that had something to do with it because I didn't allow it to affect my vibration. I almost laughed. I think I was laughing at the time saying, all right, well, fix it. And I was thinking, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this, but just fix it. An hour later, a woman calls me and she goes, hi, Michael. I don't know if you remember me. I used to work for this company. We were a health insurance client of yours. And I said, I remember you. How you doing? And I said, what can I do for you? She said, well, I now work for a new company and we just got our health insurance renewal. And I was hoping you would look at it for us. And I was like, great, a new client. I'd love to. Thank you. Who do you work for? She said, I work for a small law firm in Philadelphia. We specialize in lemon laws for cars.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And my smile went ear to ear. And I was like, oh my God, before we talk health insurance, I got to tell you about my car. And everything I had come up with came true.
Wow.
So it was just it was really, I think the best thing that happened that day though, was I realized that if I practice what I preach and find the positives, it's amazing what might happen. And it has truly been.
That's great. And I'm just thinking that even if you can't find positives and you can't come up with different reasons, but if you can say, I know this is a good thing and I know something good is going to come out of it.
Yes.
Can't even get to specific, like what's happening right now. Something was good is going to come out of it. And if you can just look at everything, even if you can't come up with reasons, but say it's okay. There's a lot of good that's going to come out of it. But it's happening even right now. And you can have that positive attitude. You'll see it. It'll turn around.
One of the practices I do, you asked me some of my practices, one of the practices in the book, and there's a great story about that, but I just say, this could be the best thing that ever happened to me. This could be, because what I have found when you say that, your mind starts traveling in that direction and looking for things that may be the best thing that make this the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, I know. I find like I had a health challenge many years ago, and at the time it was horrible. But then it took me on such an amazing path, and I was thinking about it today. That it was the best thing that happened to me.
Right.
So like now when I'm having that issue and so upset about something, like remember how that turned out to be so fabulous for you. This
Right.
could be too.
Right.
And if you think about like that, like I had no idea how it was going to turn out now, but you think of it like that it has no choice. Law of attraction. It has no choice.
It has no choice. When you can get your vibration matching the vibration or the energy of your desire, it has to come true.
Right.
And I feel so weird saying this because I used to be the person who'd say like, yeah, law. As a matter of fact, when a friend of mine gave me a CD, this is sort of how I really got started. We had, I don't know what I would listen to at that time, a Walkman or whatever it was. Actually, whatever, an iPod at that time, I guess. And when I would walk my dog in the woods, I would listen to a CD from Abraham Hicks. That is sort of how I got started. And it's so funny because when he first sent it to, when he gave it to me, he goes, "Hey, have you ever heard of these guys?" And I was like, "I know all about them and law of attraction. I don't need to hear any more about it." But we joke about that now because, of course, since now I've become a law of attraction coach and an author and all that other stuff. But we always laugh about that because I was like, "Yeah, I know all about it," and I knew nothing about it.
I think that's how a lot of us did. That's how I got into it also with Abraham Hicks. I think a lot of us did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you've got such an amazing positive spin on everything, and it's just amazing to listen to you. Just how you have turned your life around and turned everything into a positive spin.
Thank you. And one of the things I say also is, like I always say, I learned from my dog too. If something's wrong, if you're hurt, if something's going wrong with you, it's okay to go off by yourself and lick your wounds and get yourself strong and come back for the game, and come back. Like don't put a what did I say before? Don't put a happy face sticker on your gas tank. If it's empty, it's empty. You do have to fill it.
Yeah, don't run away from it. I mean, that's what I love about tapping. You can be very negative, and then you end up turning it around. But you don't necessarily have to be tapping. But that's the thing. Yeah, just feel what you're feeling, see the dirt, like Louise says, and then go clean it up. It's okay.
Right. Just don't focus on, how did this dirt get in here? There's so much dirt, just, and it's funny, we call it law of attraction, Barbara, but in business, they would call it something else, or in religion, they'd call it something else. And it's really that focus of what you choose to focus on, I think.
Yeah, really, it is. And I think, I wish more people that, are in authority could talk about that now, because they're focusing on everything that's wrong. And they don't focus on that there are good things that are happening. People are getting cured all the time, and they're looking for drugs and to heal it. And I wish they focus more on that and create less fear, because it's creating so much fear.
Oh my God, so much fear. One of the things I was most proud of actually is, I don't know if you know the name Sark. She had written a blurb about my book, and she said, able to see the positive or find positives even when things aren't positive. So because I don't want to be in this pretend world where everything's great. I understand when things aren't going great, and I understand the level of practice that it takes to make certain that you can start turning it around for yourself. And like, we are facing a new economy, a new world right now. It seems like, everyone's fearful. No one knows what's going to happen right now with the coronavirus. But I have found something like you and I just talked about. This could be the best thing that ever happened to me or to you or to us. And I think when I focus on that, what I do, I find my mind starts looking for reasons that will make it one of the best things. Oh, maybe I should come up with this idea or that. It's just a different world. And it just, instead of focusing, it just helps me focus more on the positives.
On Abraham's scale, when I had seen him in Tarrytown 10 years ago, maybe, I don't know, remember, but they had just come up with the scale. And from going from misery to joy, and you can't go from misery to joy, you've got to go up the scale.
Right.
And it's going that one little step, it's finding relief. And, and I think that's what brought me back to Abraham, because it wasn't like that at first. But like just taking a one little step, saying, okay, I just want to feel a little bit better.
Right.
And that worked, instead of expecting to be joyful.
Right. Yeah, I always say you can't go from pissed to blissed overnight. But it was funny because, and I actually wrote some things from Abraham Hicks. One of the things I mentioned is the ability to stay focused on the positive, even when you're looking at the negative. So when you just mentioned the emotional scale, one of the things I recognized was it's not bad to be angry if before that you were hopeless. Right. You're like, oh, angry is a good thing. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So,
well,
Michael, thank you so much. Now, how can people get to your book?
You can buy it on Amazon or wherever you buy your book. It's The Wingman's Path to Positivity. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. Hold on. Here you go. It looks like this.
Okay, great.
And yeah. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it anywhere you normally buy your books. You're not going to buy it at a bookstore yet, obviously, I guess, because you can't get in there. And you can find me, you can join me on my daily practices on Facebook, The Wingman's Path to Positivity. It's a Facebook group. Or you can go to my website, thewingmanspath.com.
Okay. All right, that's great. And I know everybody's going to love this interview.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. And I thank you so much for all you're doing, for shining your light and for helping people, to heal and to find the positive. And you know how important that is.
Well, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. And I know you're going to get a lot out of everyone who registered. I'm going to send this link to Michael too, so he can send it out to whoever he wants. And
thank you
so much info. So thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Barbara.